Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Game Over Winnipeg. My name, of course, is Brady. I'm joined by my fantastic co-hosts, Alyssa, on a 4-2 win by the Jets over the Canucks. Nice little one national anthem game. Of course, it was Sam Gagner's 1,000th game of his career, so a little shouts out to that. I mean, we can kind of talk about the little ceremony in front, but before we get into all that, Alyssa, how are you doing today? Hell yeah. It should be a good one. This one was a really odd game. Before we jump into that, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it is nice to see the Jets commemorating Sam Gagner before the game. I thought I thought the ceremony was a little long, but it is what it is. I love seeing the Jets get their guys in. He was, I think, the third Jet to be handed a silver stick. Oh, you guys couldn't hear Alyssa. Can you guys hear Alyssa now? Ooh, speak, Alyssa. Uh-oh, this isn't good. Give me a moment. No, they can't hear you right now. Oh no, this is everything I hoped. I never wanted this to happen. All right, can you guys hear her now? Oh no. This is... Oh, we'll get this figured out really quickly. I'm so sorry, everyone. This is my fault, I think. All right, can I get you to speak one more time? Oh. All right, Alyssa. Perfect. Is she being... Oh no. No, you're good. You're good on my end. I can up you. Can you guys hear her singularly? I'm hearing her multiple times on my end, which is... Yeah. Oh no. All right. Oh no. This is so bad.
It's a negative from Dave in the chat.
You guys can't hear her. I'm getting levels on my end. Oh no. Okay. Well, we're gonna restart.
Today is hell. Just burped. Hope you enjoyed that.
We're back now.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
We'll see.
Are we on the stream again? Oh no.
Oh, someone says nope, still muted, so that's not good.
Hello, can you guys? Are we live? I think we are back to being live.
It sounds like we're good.
Are we good now? We're good now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Game Over. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm gonna put this all together in the for the people not watching live, but that'll
sounds
be
like a tomorrow problem.
Yeah, that'll be a thing for me to figure out later. Anyways, Alyssa, how are you doing today?
I'm good, and I could try and say the same answer. I don't remember what I said. I just said it's been a week since I talked on Game Over, and it's, Christmas break and all that good stuff, and I was hoping to come back to something to talk about, and we have something to talk about tonight, so that's always a good sign.
We do. Just for a little tease before we get into the game, this was a pretty good game for the Alyssa narrative. We had, as you said in your tweet, we had the PLD penalty shot goal. We had Mark Scheifele getting a hat trick, and just an absolutely phenomenal game from Ville Heinola. Those are all things we're going to get into right away. But before we do so, I think you know which way it's going to go. Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN 19+. Please play responsibly.
I gotta tell you, one of the guys I went to high school with has been super into sports betting for quite a few years now. And then we were chatting and I texted him tonight. I was like, put money on a Mark Scheifele hat trick. And he's like, I'm not putting money on a Mark Scheifele hat trick. I was like, put money on a Mark Scheifele hat trick. So he did. And guess what? Mark Scheifele got a hat trick. Gotta shout out Adam Lowry for that one because he really put in the work for that hat trick.
That's so funny. Do you know how much he won?
I don't. He said he put $10 on, so I don't think it was probably that much. But
no,
we'll
that should be to get a hat trick. That should be pretty good odds.
I'll ask him. I'll keep you guys posted.
Sounds good. Perfect. Yeah, as we were saying, of course, this was Sam Gagner's 1,000th game. We just wanted to give, before we jump into the game, a bit of a tip of the cap to him. He's been a bit of a journeyman. Has kind of reinvented his career here and there. Of course, he started out. I feel like he's played in the league forever. I still remember being like, I don't know, like 5, 6 years old, 7 years old maybe, and him being a part of I want to say he was a part of that Edmonton Oilers team that went to the Cup final. I don't know if he was. I think he was, but it feels like he's been around for forever. So a little tip of the cap to him. Congrats, Sam Gagner.
Congrats on being one of the top 5 players dressed in a Winnipeg Jets uniform tonight.
That's true. It was a very interesting game. Alyssa and I were kind of talking about how we wanted to approach this game here, and it really felt like it was the tale of two teams, two Jets teams, that is, of course. Alyssa, what did you think about kind of how the Jets played in, let's just say generally the first half of the game versus the second half of the game? And was there anything that really stuck out to you as what changed for the Jets in order for them to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit better?
Well, sometimes when it comes to these sorts of things, I feel like I use similar answers, like the types of chances that were created really change the narrative of a game. But one general term I think I'd use to talk about the very beginning of that game was puck management. Generally speaking, the first part of that game, I thought their puck management was very, very poor in every zone of the ice. Like, obviously, we could talk a little bit about the Dylan Sandberg pizza that led to that opening goal of the game that set the tone really early.
Just brutal.
That was bad. But I'm not a fan of isolated plays to judge a team or a player's game. But I thought generally speaking, like when they were in the offensive zone, they were fumbling pucks and they weren't clean coming out of the zone. Their passes were poor, that nothing was sharp, nothing was crisp. And I thought generally just across the table that made for a really rough start to the game.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I have written down here on my sheet. The way I do is I kind of write out a game log and then I write down kind of my general thoughts on each period. And my first period thought, my main thing that stuck out, first shot was 11 minutes in. That's been a theme for the Jets this year. They have not been good at getting their chances quick, being able to, jumpstart from the start of, the start of the game, even the second period tonight. The Jets were, for the first, 5, 6 or so minutes, they were just not able to get many shots on. And when it came to the first period, this was, again, going back to what I had written down here. I had that they weren't really following up on their rebounds. One of the things that I found that Colin Delia, again, he's like a third string goalie. So, the Jets, and I think also just in general, to envelope this entire conversation we're going to have, we do need to acknowledge that this was against the Canucks, a team that is a bit of a bottom feeder. Obviously, the Jets have not been, aren't the healthiest team. They've got, 5 of their top 12 forwards playing. But I think it is important to give that context. But Colin Delia is a goalie who tonight was giving up tons and tons of rebounds. And I think that was one of the keys that the Jets initially go at the start. They weren't really able to follow up on their rebounds and make chances out of what the shots that they were getting, because it was mostly from the perimeter. What I found was really the key to their success, other than obviously the power play, which we'll talk about in a bit. I thought that the big difference was that the Jets kind of realized that the center of the ice was a lot more open for the taking than they thought it was. And I think that they did a really good job adapting and finding ways to create better chances.
Absolutely. And David in the chat says, although from the Jets' perspective, the start wasn't good, they did pour it on in the second. And I absolutely agree. And I think part of that comes down to two of the really big points that Brady mentioned was the ability to manage that neutral zone a little bit better and break up the center of that ice and then also capitalize on those rebounds and not necessarily score on every single one, but actually utilize them to create some more chances in front of the net because like Brady and I will scream from the rooftops, like you can never have too many net front chances, right? And if you can take advantage of the ones that are given to you by those strong rebounds, then it creates more pressure, more added zone time, more high danger scoring chances, and the odd time you will score like they did a couple times tonight. So
absolutely. And as I was kind of saying, I think in the whole context thing, I think it is also kind of important for us to look at this game and kind of realize that every single goal that was scored by the Jets tonight was a special teams goal, whether it was on the power play, whether it was the obviously the PLD shootout goal. Their special teams tonight was really good. And again, it is against the Canucks. They do have one of the worst, if not the worst PK in the league. What did you see? What was really what did you find was the keys to the goals that the Jets had scored on the power play? Did you find that there was anything in specific that led to them scoring? Or was it just kind of the power play, you continue to work and eventually you get what you deserve?
Yeah, and I would say it's the kind of thing that, again, you might hear me give a similar answer every time that we find that the power play has a good game. And I think the movement was good, right? Like, I think when your power play is fluid and that you have, that strong possession and you can, move that puck where you want it to go, I think that leads to a stronger power play. And I thought their movement was good tonight. And I think generally speaking, that's a good overarching theme about what I specifically liked about it.
For sure. I completely agree. When it came to the goal, I mean, also we should give a bit of a stick tap to the Jets on the fact that they did draw a decent amount of calls, especially in the second half of the game. That's a sign of a team that is kind of taking it to the other teams. You're forcing them to make errors. An example would be the Travis Dermott interference penalty, where it's like that was a penalty that he had to take, absolutely, and that just comes from the Jets pouring it onto the Canucks. For me, I look at the goals that came on the power play here, and I think it was, again, a lot of movement was created, but also I found that the Jets realized that the Canucks were really just kind of collapsing. And so what do you do when you collapse? You try to make chaos in front. You try to get shots, from the point through that traffic. Of course, you have to find a lane. You can't just throw it at 18 bodies, geez. 9 bodies in front. I just said a number, clearly.
You doubled. You did some inadvertent mental math. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so like, again, the first Scheifele goal, it comes off of a tip off of a Josh Morrissey shot. Again, the puck was moving very, very well, very fluently on that power play, and it was great to see the Jets actually, get something from it. Shout out Mark Scheifele, great job.
And update on the Mark Scheifele situation. My friend profited $45, so he won $55 on a $10 bet. So
good for him.
Kind of slay.
Good stuff. You should get a little $5 commission.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And currently he has money on the Coyotes winning. I think it was a plus 650 and $10 bet. So we'll see what happens there.
Not bad. Little news break from Noah Lafort in our chat here. Bonus says that Morrissey has a lower body injury, but hopefully he will be back for next game. As we kind of saw at the end of the game there, he took a pretty tough hit from Tyler Myers. I'm surprised to see that it was a lower body injury, especially considering Tyler Myers is so big. I'm surprised to see that, but in my opinion, with the way that the Jets are playing, I mean, they're already band-aided up. If he's not 100%, I personally think that they need to sit him. Josh Morrissey has been such an important piece to the Jets all year long. I'd rather have him sit a game in January or December, I guess December technically still, then have him push himself when he's, maybe only 75%. But that's just my opinion. I don't know where you fall on that.
Oh no, for sure. Especially while everyone's like, we're just trying to get through this next couple, this next stretch. We know how the Winnipeg Jets look when their stars are playing banged up. They look awful, and it stretches out the length of the injury time. If people need some time to heal, just give them a second. It's okay. It's okay. Josh, I promise you can rest. The city of Winnipeg will go on.
All right. Well, you know what? I was planning on doing this at the end of the show, but it kind of leads into it. We gotta talk about Ville Heinola. And especially here's the thing. If Josh Morrissey is not 100% for next game, don't play him. And we saw in the third period, the Jets, Rick Bowness absolutely trusted Ville Heinola to go out there. He had a fantastic game today. I'm gonna go. I have a bit of a spiel I want to say about him. I'll give you the floor really quickly while I gather my thoughts on what I wanted to really highlight from his game tonight. Alyssa, your boy, Ville Heinola, go off. The floor is yours.
Okay, so originally Brady and I were talking about Ville Heinola before this game, right? Because we understand the situation that he's in, and with the nature of injuries on the Jets blue line right now, this is going to be his best chance to solidify a spot in the lineup. And the last couple games that he has been able to play, obviously last game I believe it was, he was out, Kappa was back in. I thought that he was good. And people are always like, oh, Ville Heinola is bad in his own zone. He can't defend, all these kinds of things. Like that's what the general public will say about him, the casual fans, if I may. But in Ville Heinola's showings in the last couple of games, he's been very solid, which is what we wanted from him because that was the area that we were worried. But my sentiment going into this game was, okay, we know that you can be solid and that's great. That's important. Now you need to show us what you're good at because that's your competitive advantage. And I need him to do that. And I thought that early in this game, he wasn't really doing that. Like he was still solid. And I thought he was one of the better defenders, especially early on when some of them, like we know what kind of year Neil Pionk's been having and some of the passes he's been making and some of the things that just make you go, what? And Ville Heinola wasn't doing any of that. But like you said, Brady, like near the end of the game, especially with less minutes from Josh and, having some power play time and stuff like that, I thought Ville Heinola was really good. And I'll just cite one play in particular. Ville Heinola was on the power play, second unit, of course, and, have the possession puck turnover, and Ville Heinola, as the defenseman does on a power play, is defending on the rush. And he's coming in and he's in the middle of the ice, right? And the defending player pulls a little bit to the goalie's right on the left wing there. And Adam Lowry is chasing him. And you see Ville Heinola make the read and he tells Adam Lowry to stick with that guy. And he pulls back a little bit to defend the other guy coming in off the rush. No scoring chances created because they were able to effectively manage that, right? Obviously, it's a shorthanded chance. Those aren't always the biggest, strongest things in the world. But that calm, cool collectedness of that read, I think it's a good play to kind of pick out to show as an example of the kind of game that he had. It was a good game. Rick Bowness, all the power to him, trusted him. He put him out at 4-on-4, which is great. We know how good Ville Heinola can be with more space on the ice and all that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, I thought he had a fantastic game. Brady said he had a spiel. Apparently I had a spiel too, but when do I not? When is it a Ville Heinola? So.
That is totally okay. And I completely agree with most of the things that you said. The only thing I'm going to disagree with is that I thought from the get-go, he had a fantastic game. I thought at the start of the game, in the first period, he was the only defenseman I saw who was able to confidently break the puck out without, just throwing it up the wing, making bad passes. I want to bring up a little tweet here from Garrett Hole. He always, gives us some stats. Heinola played shelter minutes, but finished at 5v5 with 83% Corsi, so that's just shot attempts, 99% expected goals, 3 controlled exit, 0 uncontrolled or failed, 2 controlled entries, 2 uncontrolled, 0 failed, and a lot of puck touches over his 18 shifts. This was the game. This was Ville Heinola's game. By far his best of the season. I thought he played great against Boston a couple weeks ago. But that was a complete and perfect, what I thought about the Boston game is he played well, but he played well in the sense of he didn't do anything bad. He was good defensively, and that's what the Jets are wanting to see from him. They know he can do the offensive stuff. But I thought that the defensive side of things kind of came at a bit of a hit to his offensive side of things. Again, he was still making nice breakout passes and everything like that. But it didn't seem like he was, as effective offensively as we've seen him in the AHL, or if we've seen him in preseason. We've seen him here, there, and everywhere. And tonight, I thought that he was fantastic on both sides of the puck. There were many shifts I spent where I was just kind of almost locked in on him in front of the net. And he's found such a perfect way of boxing guys out. You can see that he's putting the effort in, and also with his stick, like every single time that he's in front of the net, instead of just trying to body a guy out, he understands the position he's in. He understands he's a smaller guy. What does he do? He ties the guy's stick up every single time, and that is something that should be commended. And again, that none of this came at the detriment of his offense. Tonight, he was a two-way force, I thought. In the offensive zone, there was one play in specific where I'm like, I have to talk about just this one in specific. It was in the second period, and there were just a couple times where Ville gets the puck at the blue line. He walks the line, moves over, creates some space. He doesn't really exactly find the passing lanes that he wants. And instead of just like trying to take a shitty, slap shot on net, that's not his style. Rather than that, he throws one of those nice light wrist shots, flicks it on net. It's a little bit high up. And it reminds me a lot of John Klingberg back when in the heyday of the Dallas Stars power play. Like, that was one thing that he was doing that was different from the rest of the league. You had your Dustin Byfugliens who were on the point and they were just trying to power it through. Whereas John Klingberg, and what I'm seeing from Ville Heinola too, they prefer to have a bit more of a finesse shot where they're it's almost like they're throwing it into open space towards the net available for tips. It's a lot easier to tip a fluttery shot than it is a booming slap shot from a Dustin Byfuglien type. On the same shift, and this is why I wanted to talk about it. Another time, he pinched on the left boards really well, had a perfect, fantastic read. The puck ends up coming back up the wall. He skates across the blue line. He looks for the shot. It's completely empty, or it's completely covered in front. There's too much traffic to even try to get a shot in front. What does he do? He doesn't just try to power it through like a Logan Stanley, or even sometimes Dylan Sandberg is guilty of it too. He throws it into the corner where there is complete and open space. The puck goes to Kevin Stenlund behind the net. And I think three good chances came of this. Like, this is the high elite IQ. I know we hate the term hockey IQ. But this is the type of offensive mind that the Jets need just in general. He provides so much. He was so dynamic tonight. Again, it was only one game. It was against the Canucks. I completely understand. But regardless, if we're looking at this game here, there is absolutely no reason that this guy should be out of the lineup within the next two games, in my opinion. And of course, to finish it off, if they really want to bring Capobianco in, obviously if Morrissey's hurt, that's one thing. If Morrissey's not hurt, I'm sorry, tonight, it's Dylan Sandberg who's out. Like, he started off pretty rough. I thought in the end he finished his game off pretty well. For a decent half of the game, he was playing with Ville, and then they were kind of flip-floppy.
They stabilized him by putting him with Ville Heinola. Some words we never thought we'd say. But to be fair, what is the alternative?
Exactly.
Playing with Neil Pionk. So.
Yeah, but I don't think Pionk was to blame for the pizza at the start of the game.
I just mean that if you're looking for a safety net to try and recoup yourself a little bit, that's not what I'm picking.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. All right. Do you have anything you want to jump to next while I try to think of what would make sense here?
Yeah, no, like, I think you kind of finish off. Like, I do think it's important to, like, when you use terms like hockey IQ, like, there's a reason they exist. I just feel like people throw them around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the one right now is puck moving defenseman, I find, is a word that people are just using to talk about dudes. And it's like, do you even know what that means? But like, I think that pointing out those individual situations, like Atacan Man says in the chat, right? Like, Ville made a nice pinch on his own missed shot, aware he was the only guy to see that. Like, right, like, those are the kinds of plays that we can isolate and be like, look, that's a good example. But you talked specifically about that one chance that led to more chances from that fourth line with Stenlund, and I want to talk about them a little bit. This is another situation where I feel like I'll start it off and say that I can use the word like, I don't know, like, not intangibles in this situation, but like, for example, like, AJF has this hilarious straight line speed of just like an absolute workhorse. Dude runs down the ice. Like, he's just going, right? And like, I would say that, like, noticeably, he's the guy who delays icings more than almost anyone on this team, where he beats the guys to the end to save the team from, getting an icing right there. And there was one situation where he did that. And right before he did, the broadcasters were talking about how the guys were out on a long shift. And it's like that. You could have literally ended up with a goal against if he hadn't gotten that icing and you had a really tired lineup with, that ice puck in the D zone faceoff, right? Like, little things like that. So I think that Kevin Stenlund's line is worth talking about. I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit. I think they've been a lot of fun in the last little bit, and yeah, let's talk about them.
For sure. In a game like tonight, I think that the Stenlund lined, allowed the Jets a lot more depth than they actually have. Obviously, we know the injuries that the Jets have right now. They've got however many guys on the forward side of things that are out and injured. I found that because obviously tonight we didn't go back to the top line, the big line of having Connor, Dubois, and Scheifele all together. Instead of that, we had Scheifele drop down to play with Lowry, which kind of gave the Jets a bit of, at least the top two lines kind of thing. Of course, it is a depleted top two lines, but better than, the second line being, what was it the other night? Like Harkins, Lowry, and Barron, like much better than that in my opinion. And I thought that the Stenlund line has been really good. Today we had a bit of a different iteration than last game. Kuhlman was on that line last game. Tonight we had Morgan Barron, who I think has been absolutely fantastic in kind of like that third line role. He's been really good at playing a shutdown kind of line. But man, Kevin Stenlund has been fantastic since joining the Jets. And this is a guy who, in my opinion, you can't take out of the lineup once everyone becomes healthy. He's been too good on both ends of the puck. And as I was saying, tonight he kind of allowed the Jets to have that Lowry shutdown third line, even though Lowry wasn't on it. Even with having Lowry, be in the top six, I thought that, I noticed that every single time that the Jets wanted to keep the momentum that they had going, after a power play goal, even after the Canucks had scored, Kevin Stenlund line was put out, which is kind of what Rick Bowness has kind of assigned, the traditional third line of Lowry and Barron and whoever. And I'm just looking at these guys and I'm going, they're making, they're squeezing blood out of a stone. These are all guys who, again, one of them is Morgan Barron. The other started the year in the AHL, and the other one was placed on waivers. And yet they're coming in here, and they played a fantastic game tonight. I would love to see. I think that Stenlund and AJF have fantastic chemistry together. I think that Stenlund understands that he can put the puck into space, and AJF is going to be the one who wins that race. I've been pretty critical of Janssen Fjallby this year and his output. Rather, if he's just kind of doing empty calorie. Offense kind of thing, where I thought tonight that line was clicking. There was many times where Stenlund was driving the net. Morgan Barron had a really nice drive from the right side. I think it was in the second period. And Janssen Fjallby was just a bugger. He was just an absolute pest. He was just constantly in the Canucks' hair all night. I thought that line was absolutely fantastic, and I would love to see it kind of stick together. I would love to see some sort of iteration of Stenlund, Fjallby, and whoever as a fourth line. I thought Kuhlman played really well last game with those two guys, and then also I'll ask your opinion, because I disagreed with. I saw some people flaming Kuhlman again tonight on Twitter, and I've been very critical of him. What have you thought of his game so far with the Jets as well as tonight?
So I want to be careful with what I say here, because a lot of people that I did see flaming Kuhlman are people that I agree with on most things. And I'm kind of on your side here. And here's my issue. Okay, this is don't cancel me. But I think saying that he had a rougher game tonight is a little bit of a lazier take, if you know what I mean, just because his mistakes were glaring. He biffed on so many Mark Scheifele setups tonight that it's like, well, not biff, but like didn't score on them. Some of them were okay shots. Some of them he did miss on a little bit kind of thing, but it's like they were finishing mistakes. And I find that sometimes finishing mistakes are easier to pick out than other mistakes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I actually do completely agree with you on this. That's kind of the way I was looking at this as well. I thought that we should give credit to him. He was very frequently in the right spots. He was constantly getting slot chances, whether that be through passes, whether that be through, the rebounds and everything like that. Also just around the net. Like there was a lot of times where there was one shift where he had like 3 in tight scoring chances. Of course, he doesn't score on them. My biggest criticism of Carson Kuhlman, I just don't think he's that guy. He's just not that guy. He's not the guy to play in your top 6 and be an effective scoring punch. But I do think that he does provide some value in the sense of he's good defensively. He's a pretty hard worker. He's a bit of a grinder. And I thought that of all the players, I don't see tonight me looking at him and going, he had a bad game. I disagree with that completely. I thought that he was getting himself in the right areas, was getting a lot of scoring chances. Sure, he hasn't pot one home, but if one goes in, are we complaining about his finishing? Like, I just think it is a little bit tough to throw that criticism onto him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's also the kind of thing where it's like, comparatively to some of the other games that he's had too, I thought it wasn't as bad. Like, especially when he first got here, it was kind of rough out the gate. And I think that was the issue that I found, especially early on in the game when we were talking about puck management, right? Was I felt like it was giving. I've been watching a lot of World Juniors lately, and every single team is kind of the same way, especially the powerhouse teams, where it's like, there's a lot of talent there, but there's not a lot of team there. And you get it because they don't play with each other all the time. And the Jets are kind of in a similar boat where they're playing with irregular line mates. And sometimes, the pass is there, but the recipient's not, or vice versa. And there's kind of some of those miscommunications, which I thought was part of the puck management issues early on. Where was I going with this? Oh, yes, that's what I found with Carson Kuhlman earlier when he first joined the team, was exactly that. And you do find that that's the case with a lot of players, is when they're adjusting to new line mates and stuff like that, there are those miscommunications. So I think that he's gotten better. And like you said, he's not that guy, and that's not his fault. It's the injury's fault. But I thought he was okay tonight. And I thought that Mark Scheifele did what he could.
For sure. This is a question I asked at the end of my last stream. And I would like your opinion. I am going to put you on the spot a little bit here. When the Jets get healthy, who is your bottom six? Who are the guys where you're like, you look at those guys and you think, that's a guy who I'm keeping in the lineup. I almost no matter what. This guy I'd like to see around, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't work out. What's your thoughts on all that? Because we've had a lot of guys roll through from the AHL, from waivers, from everything like that. Where do you stand on that?
Okay, so part of that's a bit of a loaded question to me, because who's in my top six?
That is a fair question, actually.
Because I think my top six is Perfetti, Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor, Dubois, and then that's my question mark, is who's the guy. So let's say it's Blake Wheeler.
Let's just say it's Blake. Let's just say it's Blake Wheeler. Let's just say it's Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler at worst will be playing on the third line. Like,
with the way the year is running, I keep Lowry at 3C, and David Gustafsson, I move to the wing with Adam Lowry, I think, because I like more usage of him. And I also think that his defensive, like, I don't know, I like defensive wingers because I like when they can plug up the boards a little bit more when guys are breaking up on the rush. And I think David Gustafsson's good at that, and I want more playing time from him. So I put him there. And I think I put them with maybe a Morgan Barron. And then that leaves, maybe I go Esamont, Stenlin, AJF, and then Harkins as a 13th forward.
I need to remind you, because we always need the reminder. Mason Appleton
I don't
exists.
care. I don't know.
You no?
I don't even know anymore. I don't know where I put him. I package him up in a trade for Connor Garland is what I do.
Real. with Pionk.
The Vancouver Canucks are just going to become a graveyard for awful Winnipeg Jets defenders.
I'm going to say something really mean to you tonight, right now. Oh, I got her to spill the water. Okay. I'm going to say something really mean to you tonight. Ville just had his best showcase game for a Bo Horvat trade. Oh,
no,
man.
It's so real. It's so real, because I hate it when people, like, there's nothing worse than when people create their trade packages and they throw their trash in it. It's like, if it's your trash, it's everyone else's trash too. No one wants it. So you need to understand that if you want Bo Horvat, you're going to have to give up something good. And it's probably Ville Heinola, if I'm being completely honest. Like, but so true. Showcase game.
I think for me, I also have not really settled on this as well too, because while I do believe that I would like to have a Stenlin, AJF, someone else line, I also think that Stenlin's just been so good that I would love to see him play on the third line with Lowry and Barron. In my opinion, I think Barron is kind of stapled next to Lowry, but also at the same time, I again have no idea what to say about Appleton. I think just naturally he ends up on your third line, which kind of stinks.
Mhm.
But he's a guy. He's whatever. He does fine. But also at the same time, I'm looking at it. I go, Stenlund's a guy I don't think you can take out of the lineup. I unfortunately the Gus bus is running a little bit out of fuel for me. I love the guy and I'm cheering for him so much, but unfortunately he just hasn't been as good as some of the other guys. Like to be honest,
we need more from him. No, we absolutely need more from him. I agree, but I think that, and I want to, like you said, I'm rooting for him, so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and everything. But Dave in the chat says that like Gus might be worth a try with 55 instead of Kuhlman. And like, honestly, yeah, because they're not going to scratch Gus until they have to, right? And give him a chance somewhere else.
And he has experience playing top line minutes, obviously with the Moose, but also even with like the Swedish national team, going back to World Juniors and stuff like that. And he has shown that he has some sort of offensive punch to him. I think he's just trying to figure it out. Also, he's being kind of asked to be a defensive guy, so I think that that's probably where his focus is, rather than taking a little bit more risks. But I also too would love to see him with other guys. I've always been king of just try things so that when push comes to shove, you know what you got to do. And that's the one thing I'll say that is actually decent about the Jets being pushed into the situation they're in currently with all the injuries. At least we're figuring out what has to happen when injuries may come, should that be in playoffs or approaching the playoffs with, the Jets fighting for whichever spot they are in at the time. Did you have any other final thoughts here? I think we could probably wrap it up right away here.
I think we need to talk about just the fun of the evening. Mark Scheifele's hat trick was a ton of awesome. And also Pierre-Luc Dubois, God bless his heart, has the temper of a 6-year-old and is just one of the most fun players in the Winnipeg Jets to watch. And I don't think that he and Cal Connor were enough of a storyline for me tonight to want to talk about. But the penalty shot, come on, give me a freaking break. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois is just, I love him. Like I did my little story time on TikTok the other day explaining to everyone my story of how Pierre-Luc Dubois became my favorite player. Everyone knows that, right? And like so he's near and dear to my heart for many reasons, but like he's also the kind of player you want on your team. He gets everyone fired up. He gets a team, he gets a crowd fired up. It's a ton of fun. That penalty shot was so awesome. I actually have a question for you guys. If you don't know, Brady is a ref. Why, when they call a penalty shot, is it the hand up and then point at the center of the ice, but then sometimes it's the crossed arms with the X? What's the difference?
The difference is rule sets. So in the NHL, they just point to center ice. I don't know. There's no specific reason for it. But I think it's in international play as well as the Hockey Canada rule book. This is the you can't see because of Zoom, but this is the cross above the head is the penalty shot. Okay. My question to you before we do wrap up here, did you think that he deserved the penalty, the interference penalty, where he was just boxing whoever it was? I think it was Horvat. He was just boxing him out.
Okay, again, and that's I think. Because I know this player so well, and I know he has the temper of a 6-year-old, and like he can't, like I was thinking kind of because I was like, it's just gonna get out of hand here. Like, but again, I don't know. I'm not a ref. I don't know. I also think that I have like an overcorrecting bias on Pierre-Luc Dubois, where every time he does something wrong, I'm like, oh my god, like this freaking guy. Like, when you do when it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, that was a penalty, and people are like, no, it wasn't. But if it were any other player, I'd be like, no, it's not.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If it's any other player, no, it's not. But with him, he has drawn enough penalties that are maybe so that I think that he just doesn't get the benefit of the doubt there. And it kind of is interference, but if he just has a stick on the puck, then he's just boxing a guy out, but it is what it is. I think that he had a great game, especially with that. He completely drew the penalty shot. Like he absolutely used his body. Oh goodness. we lost Lyss from our Zoom call. That means we are definitely going over time. But yeah, I thought that he did very well to box the guy out and draw the penalty as well as score on the penalty shot. But either way, This was a fantastic game from the Jets. Obviously started off slow, but a great win. Hopefully they can build on it. But it was a fantastic night here. I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening. For myself and Lyss, for Game Over. Have yourselves a good night. Check us out on Twitter. For me, at NHL Chunky. For Lyss, at LYSSHOUDE. Follow at SDPN Sports. Check out Sports Interaction if you feel like doing a little betting. And have yourselves a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Enjoy the new year. Lyss will be with you guys on New Year's Eve while I'm out doing other stuff. So have yourselves a good one. Stay safe.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.